There we are. Howdy, 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 guys. Sorry, I was running a little bit behind. Taking care of some business. Y'all know how things go. Typical Monday, right? But I made it out here, and I'm so happy I did. So let me just start off by saying, SKD 143. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love all y'all out here. I love all the fans of reality TV and Big Brother in particular. We're almost a Big Brother. Y'all realize, 16 days? It's that time of year. I'm getting worked up. We're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. I don't have any huge, amazing, I don't know. We'll talk about it. I've heard a few things here and there. No problems with big guy with the cowboy hat. Well, thank you. I was fashionably late. Man, just late. Yeah, that's just the way it works sometimes. But I'm glad y'all are here. Thank y'all all, as usual. Thank y'all all for coming in. Y'all are always so quick getting out here. Yeah, I'm just about disappearing on this screen. Y'all are gonna have to bear with me. It looks like I'm almost a ghost with my green screen, but some days it is what it is. Let's see what else. RJ Skinner, greetings from North Texas and a first time viewing. Well, RJ, welcome aboard. We don't have any. I guess we don't really have any rules in here. Our only rules is we're here talking. I'll try to read the comments. Any questions y'all got, Big Brother or otherwise related. I want this to be interactive. How boring. I sat there inside the Big Brother house, did my Cliff Notes where I was just talking to the camera, and that was okay. But I'd much rather talk back and forth. So RJ, any questions, just fire away. I got a few topics we'll talk about as we go through as well. Let me give a quick shout. Amanda Parker, Jeffrey. Jeffrey's not going to be able to watch that, but you'll watch later. So, hey, Jeffrey. Well, welcome to reviewing the show. David Buchanan, Jeffrey, Ma, all of y'all guys. Jake out here, Don as well. All my old friends out here. Cross Track as well. Jenna, howdy, Jenna. So, Jeffrey as well. Man, it's always so cool when I get here and see all of y'all listed as well. So thank you. All right, I'm talking fast because I was rushing around to get online. I got the adrenaline pumping. This is like Taco Tuesday night inside the Big Brother house. The pulse rate's going. A lot of things to talk about. Part of it's because every time I do the show, I get to about 7:55 and I look up and think, oh my gosh, I've got so much stuff I never even got around to talking about. So, talk just a little bit faster and you can squeeze a little bit more in? Maybe. I'm from Texas. We never talk that fast, right? Not really. I mean, not compared to some of the people that were in that house with me from other parts, New Jersey, New York, that talked a whole lot faster than old Boss Hog. But I will try to slow down. I'll try to take a quick little breath. In fact, I know what I'll do. It's a way to slow me down. A little Dr. Pepper. Well, it's caffeine, but I drink so much caffeine between my coffee and my Dr. Pepper. Doesn't faze me well. The pause that refreshes. I don't know if that's Dr. Pepper's slogan or not. If it's someone else's, sorry, I stole your slogan. But anyway, all right, guys, let's talk about a couple of things that are going on today, as we always do, before we get into some deep and heavy topics. First of all, welcome to Summer Solstice Day. Now, when I picked this background, I don't know if y'all recognize that or not. We'll talk about that in a second. When I picked the background, I didn't pick it because of the sun up here, but it's kind of fitting for June 21st, isn't it? June 21st, summer solstice, not the longest day of the year. Every day is 23 hours, 59 minutes and something seconds. But it's the longest amount of daylight of any day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And all kinds of brother. Let's see. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I'm just a popular fellow tonight. All right. What was I saying? Oh, summer solstice. The day that we have more daylight in the Northern Hemisphere than any other time. I made one trip up. I don't know if I've mentioned on here. I think I probably have. I went up to the North Slope of Alaska to work in the oil fields in January. So very much in the wintertime. Went to a town called Dead Horse, Alaska. That is never a good sign. You don't go on vacation. You don't have tourist activities in any place that's called Dead Horse, right? That kind of gives you an indication of what the place is like. It was cold and it was dark because summer solstice is when we have the longest amount of daylight in the year. Winter solstice, which I guess would be December 21st, is when we have the shortest amount of the year. And when you're up north of the Arctic Circle, working in the oil fields of Alaska, you don't get any sunshine at all. We'd have for about an hour. You could see kind of the sun sitting on the horizon, just a little bit of it got brighter. And that was about it. Maybe you'd see the very top of the sun over on the horizon for an hour. You'd go right back down. So it was 23 plus hours a day of working the absolute dark. Very, very weird way of doing business, but there you go. So happy Solstice Day to all of y'all. Now, kind of in a similar tone with Solstice Day, do y'all know this day in history? In this day in history, way back in 1633, that was even before my time, 1633, Galileo, the famous scientist, was forced to renounce his amazing idea that, hey, maybe we rotate around the sun instead of the sun rotating around the earth. And the people back then said, yeah, ain't no way you're selling that story. They forced him to renounce the whole thing. It's funny they made him renounce it on summer solstice day. What a weird cosmic universal kind of coincidence, right? But anyway, so on this day, Galileo had to stand up front and say, well, I know I'm right, but I don't want to get tortured and thrown into jail. So yeah, well, the sun's circling around the earth. Sure, guys, whatever. I'll buy that. I'm glad we finally got the idea that wasn't actually the case. So happy Galileo turned out to be right after all day, in addition to the summer solstice day. I got to take some breaths, right? All right, now, I mean, look at the comments. Do y'all know what the above is? Can y'all tell what my background is? Because there is relevance to this day in history. And this day in history, and I'm sitting here looking through it. All right, and I got a few questions. I'm going to talk about who asked about BV, US versus Canada. I want to talk about that. Summer solstice was yesterday, Ma's saying. Really? You sure, Ma? I thought it was the 21st. It would not be the first time I was wrong. We'll have to, as I say on the Jeopardy, we'll have to check with the judges on that. Or was it Family Feud? I'm not sure. But I thought it was today. But if not, I'm off by a day. Day late, dollar short. Isn't that saying, right? So let me answer a couple of questions before I go too much further. Jen is saying, do you still keep up with Nicole? Yeah, I do. I probably keep up with Nicole more than anyone else in our house. I try to keep up with almost everyone in the house, but especially Nicole. She and I texted back and forth just a couple of days ago. She wished me a happy Father's Day. I wished her and her family and her dad a happy Father's Day as well. And so we talked a little bit on Sunday and everything. So yeah, I still keep up with it. Nicole and I are going to be friends forever. Weird, she's a whole lot younger than I am, but we had that shared experience of fighting for each other in house. So yeah, we'll always be friends. But yeah, it was great talking to Nicole. Jeff Mertz. All right, yeah, those I may have mentioned Jeff before. Jeff, hey. Jeff Mertz is probably my oldest friend in the entire world. Jeff lived across the street from us when we were growing up. And then my family moved just down the road to the next city over from Fort Worth into Arlington. Jeff's family moved with us, still lived on the same street. We went to college together, lived in the same dormitory. So Jeff and I are like this. Jeff lives out in LA. I don't get to see him nearly as much as I'd like to. But here's a little inside scoop for y'all. The day I got, well, not the day I got booted out of the house. The day I got booted out of the house, then I had to sit around and sequester for a week before we voted for the winner and all that. But once I was released from Big Brother, a whole lot of the house guests went over to Vegas and hung out and did their raves and all that. Can y'all picture me at a rave, dancing around with bubbles up to my neck and champagne tables and things like that? I didn't do that. I stayed in LA, did the tourism thing with the family. But we went over and visited with Jeff. Jeff is an background animator. And so we went and visited with Jeff and had a blast doing that. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, hey, Jeff. But yeah, I'm going to tell a few stories about childhood ER visits and things like that, assuming I get all my time taken care of as I need to. Kelly is in the room as well. Kelly, my favorite daughter, my absolute favorite daughter of all time. So yes, and all right, let's see what else am I missing on here. All right, we'll keep going. It typically is June 21st, but it was yesterday this year, Ma said. Well, okay. As I didn't know the solstice changes from year to year. That sounds like the start of a really bad disaster film, right? I don't know. The solstice just keeps moving up day by day. Next thing you know, we got comets falling on us, and we're all fleeing for Iceland. All right, a movie. I don't think I told y'all. Movie I watched, Greenland. Have y'all seen that with? I can't remember who the actor is on it. It's pretty good. It's a typical disaster flick. The world's coming to an end, and we got to get away and get somewhere to save the family and all. It wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. I watched Greenland. I would recommend it 2 thumbs up from old Boss Hog. Watch Greenland as well. And my mom's out here as well. So yeah, I got my whole family out here. It was a fun weekend. We had Father's Day. I hope y'all had a fantastic Father's Day as well. I stayed here in town. My daughter and her fiance were able to come over and visit. We had fajitas for dinner, and I just enjoyed hanging out. Watched a little Formula One racing in the morning, watched a little Houston Astros baseball in the afternoon, then got to visit with my wife and her fiance. Talked to my son on the phone quite a bit as well, so got to interact with the family and had a blast doing every single bit of it. All right, let me look at some of these questions. Krista said, Cliff, did you watch Canada Big Brother Season 9? Yeah, oh, absolutely, Krista. Now, I got to say, I didn't watch the live feeds. I tried to, but it's hard watching the live feeds for Canada. I know people are saying, oh, you got to get VPNs and do all this stuff on the computer and on. I just never got around to doing it. So, yeah, I watched every episode, and I kept up with things that were happening on the live feeds. I just didn't watch them myself. I thought it was a great season. There were a lot of characters on there. I mentioned several times, kind of my favorite maybe was Kiefer, because I saw some similarities between he and I, where Kiefer he was under the gun, his back was up against the wall, and yet he still survived a couple of times. But him and Braden and Ty, I just liked everyone in that cast. I go all the way back to Julie Vu at the very first, and Josh and some of the early Victies. They were fun too. It was just a great cast. So yeah, I watched Big Brother Canada. But now I'm ready for Big Brother USA. It's going to be so much fun. Looking forward to every bit of it. Amanda's saying, what's the most remote place that you've ever been to for work? Ooh, that's a good one. Dead Horse, Alaska is pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. But where else is it? I'll tell you one. There was I had to go to Argentina for a trip, and it was, I went to Buenos Aires, which is not remote. It's a huge city, cool city. They got the best steaks and food there. Oh my God, it was amazing. But went to Argentina. Don't cry for me, Argentina. We'll talk about that in a second. Went to Argentina. At one point, I had to go visit a company called Ecopetrol out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, nowhere. They put me on this plane to fly out there. We landed on it. It wasn't a dirt runway, but it was close to it. It was a tiny little runway. A car drives out, picks me up, drives me into this town. The little office I'm working out of is on a dirt road, like a little car wash bay or something. Yeah, a little tiny office, dirt road. I get there. I'm so thirsty, and I want my I told you, caffeine. Dr. Peppers, they don't have in Argentina. So I said, man, I got to get me some coffee or something. So I asked him, I said, it's early in the morning, but is there anywhere in this town that I could walk to that may have some coffee or some sodas or something for me to drink? Because I got to get some caffeine in me. And the guy said, yeah, oh yeah, just walk around the corner, and there's a big old store right behind you. Right behind this corner, it's huge. They've got everything. So, okay, well, that's fine. So I walked down the street. I turned the corner. What kind of store do y'all think is there? It's a freaking Walmart Supercenter. You can't get away with it. I think I'm in the middle of Patagonia, Argentina, and there's a Walmart. And yeah, they had paved roads there. The part I was on was not, but there's a Walmart. So I went in there and I bought some Cokes and some coffees and things like that. But it felt remote. I was still out in the middle of nowhere while I was doing the job. I think, though, probably Alaska is about as far out as I've ever been. There's some places in Texas that are every bit as remote, maybe, as Alaska. One of the coolest spots that I ever worked out of was in far West Texas. And y'all think of West Texas as flat. You know, you see the horses and all, it's all flat. It is here where I live in Houston, but you get out into West Texas, and there's all kinds of Davis Mountains, hills, and tall mountains and all of that. And I was working on an oil rig, which was right up on the top of a cliff, mountain, kind of a cliff. And you could look off to the side of the oil rig, and it went several hundred feet down into this little canyon next to it. Well, right where we were at, you could see from the tower, was a huge golden eagle's nest built up on the side of this cliff. And I mean, we're talking 8 or 9 feet wide, just this huge nest. And you would see this golden eagle flying and landing in this nest. And they had what do they call a baby eagle? Chicklets, I think. Chewing gum and eagles, right? But now they'd have they have little chicklets live. I hope that's the right term, in the nest as well. And it was so cool. I'm sitting there doing my work up on the top of this drilling rig that I could look over and just monitor every day the progress of this golden eagle. It's so majestic. So that's pretty remote and some of the coolest parts of experiences I've had in terms of just watching and everything else. That's why I've always enjoyed being a petroleum engineer, because I spent so much time outdoors in the wide open. I've been in the jungles of Borneo. I've been up in the frozen tundra of Alaska. I've been out in the mountains. I've been up in Russia. So many fun spots, which made it that much tougher when I was inside that Big Brother house for 3.5 months, and I couldn't walk any further than 20 feet from one side of the house to the other, 30 feet, whatever it was. So yeah, it was a little tough. All right, let's see what Sandra, first time catching a live, although I do watch replays. Well, Sandra, welcome aboard. It's I guess it's I was gonna say it's kind of the same. It's the same if you're watching the screen, but you get to ask the questions now. It's all right. Anthony is saying that it's eaglets and not chicklets. Okay, I guess it's baby chicks and eaglets. I guess that kind of makes sense. Okay, that would work all right. Chris is saying, would you ever play Big Brother again if they asked you to do it? I'd love to see you play again. I wanted you and Nicole sitting final 2 so badly. Me too, Krista. Oh, that was the goal. Nicole and I had talked at one point and said, we're not playing for 3rd place. And that's why, some of the decisions we made, we could have done things slightly differently and guaranteed one of us had a better chance of 3rd place, or even maybe guaranteed a chance that both of us could make it to the final 3. We just didn't think we could win the whole thing unless it was her and I and Holly. But yeah, no, we wanted to as well. And to answer your question, yeah, I'd come back in a heartbeat if they asked me to, which isn't going to happen this year, because my understanding is that everyone's new guests this year, and there's no returning vets. But I think that sounds pretty good. I'm so excited for this season, guys. I mean, last season was fun, but I think I mentioned last week, we knew all those players. We knew what to expect out of them for the most part. This time, we're going to get that cast reveal. We don't know who we're going to be ending up cheering for at the end or just cheering against, and who we're going to love, who's going to be funny, who's going to be the most boring person ever that's been in the house. We aren't going to know any of that until we start watching these little clips and press releases and all of that. I had a blast when I was in the house doing my press interviews. I did my little entrance interview. I don't know what you call it, a little cast reveal with Jeff Schroeder, who had watched all his interviews in years past with other house guests. And so when I walked into the diary room and Jeff Schroeder sitting there, I was like, oh, I hit the big time. Now it feels real. It almost felt more real meeting Jeff even than when I met Julie Chen on day number 1. Seeing Jeff, I knew it was a real thing going on. But it was funny because I knew whatever I said in those little 3 or 4 minutes I had with Jeff, that was going to be y'all's first exposure to me. For good or bad, what y'all saw then was going to be how people started judging me, assuming, making appraisals of how they thought I was going to be. So I knew there was a lot riding on that first little 3 or 4 minute interview. But you don't know what they're going to show or what they aren't going to show. But I had fun doing it. I was so giddy. It's amazing I could even talk. I just didn't sit there the whole time with my jaw open and just laughing and smiling or anything else is. Jenna's saying, do you know when the cast reveal is? No, I don't, Jenna. I've heard rumors of like June 30th. I've also heard rumors that like July 3rd or July 5th, we may get to see a sneak peek of what the house is going to be like before the housemates come in. But none of that's confirmed. It's not like CBS is reaching out to me and saying, Cliff, here's our top secret information, and feel free to talk about it. They haven't reached out to me, so I'm hearing the same news that y'all are. But I'd heard somewhere June 30th there may be a cast reveal, but beyond that, I don't know. We'll find out. Brian's saying, were you already in the house when Jeff interviewed you? No, Brian, we weren't. That interview took place before we ever went in the house. We went in on a Tuesday, and then the first episode was like on a Wednesday a week and a day later, something like that. So. But no, I don't remember why. I did the interview with Jeff a couple of days before we actually went in the house. Here's something that y'all may not know. In Sequester, we had one day that was nothing but press interviews. We were all kept blindfolded, so we couldn't see any of the other house guests. We didn't know where we were or anything. You would just be led into a room and they'd say, okay, here is, I talked to Jeff Schroeder. I talked to Ika Wong. She was doing interviews for Entertainment Tonight Canada, I think. I talked to I talked to so many people, local radio, TV stations, things like that. So we did all our interviews on a single day, and that includes with Jeff. But we weren't in the house yet. We did all that, and then they said, "Okay, it's right back to the sequester spot for y'all once again. Sit tight, and we'll come get you in a couple of days so you can actually go in the house." So there we go. All right, let's see what else. Let me talk about. I'll get some of y'all's, and we're going to talk Big Brother a little bit more. But I do. You do chatter right along like a petroleum engineer. Concur. Well, I guess that's good, RJ. Right? Maybe that's why I'm so loud, because I've spent so many years working on these oil rigs. You have to talk loud to be heard. Didn't work out so well for me while I was inside the house, but when you're on an oil rig, this old voice carries, and that sounds pretty good. All right, let me get back this day in history, because there are a couple things I actually thought were worth pointing. I always do this day in history just as fun stuff until everyone's on board. Tonight, though, there's a couple of fun ones. First of all, did anyone ever figure this out above? Who that is behind me, or what that's got to do with it? Well, maybe not, but I'm going to tell you anyway. On this day, in 2009, the release of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Yes, and I don't know how many of y'all are Harry Potter fans, but our family is a huge fan. Harry Potter came out at the perfect time for my daughter and son. They both read them. We actually, we would read them at night as bedtime stories. We'd read them as a family as well. And then, it came out over so many years. Each of the books would come out, and everyone of my kids got a little older as the books got a little older and more mature as well. So it was perfect. And so Order of the Phoenix came out, which was the sixth book, I think, came out on this day in 2009. Now, I got a funny story for you, and I can't remember if it was this one or it was the Goblet of Fire. But one of the Harry Potter books came out, and we went to the big midnight reveal. Didn't camp out, but we went to the bookstore at midnight. Everyone dressed up in robes and everything else. And I was out there, "You're a wizard, Harry." I had so much fun doing all the Harry Potter stuff. It is thundering and lightning out here, guys. Did all that fun stuff, got our books. The very next day, I had to fly to the Middle East to do a bunch of meetings and stuff. So I'm at a hotel in Abu Dhabi and eating by myself. So I got my Harry Potter book out, reading it. I had so many people come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, where did you get that book? Is that book for sale? We didn't think it was for sale over here." And I said, "No, I bought it over in the States. I just flew over last night and I'm reading the book." And we aren't talking just kids at the hotel. We're talking fellow engineers and every kind of person you could imagine, all coming up, all impressed that I had my Harry Potter book. I should have bought about 20 copies. I would have been a rich man selling the extra copies. So it was fun watching Harry Potter be a universal, joy. A lot of people watched all over. And so I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. So Order of the Phoenix came out this date in 2009. All right. Now another one. And this is what I really want to talk about, especially because I know Angie's out here. And I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier, talk about remote places and going to Argentina, because you may or may not know this, but in 1978, in the city of London, on this date, the premiere of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice's Evita. Now, y'all may have seen the movie. You may have seen the musical as well, but Madonna certainly did the job well, and or made the movie very popular as well. But yeah, don't cry for me, Argentina. The truth is I've never left you. I'll stop it right there. But my favorite of all time is always going to be Jesus Christ Superstar. But Evita, pretty good as well. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's all about Evita Peron, who was the kind of the first lady of Argentina. I can't remember what her husband's name. Something Peron. We'll just call him President Peron. But her dealing with the people. She was a poor child growing up, and suddenly she becomes the first lady. And it was really good. Really, movie's great. Musical's even better. Personal opinion there. But anyway, so this day in 1978, we've got Evita premiering, yet another huge blockbuster for Rice and Weber. Man, those guys had a bunch of them, didn't they? All right, what else is going on? We'll talk about a few other things. Let me look at y'all's comments real quick. God, it is really thundering. I hope if the power goes out, if suddenly you're just listening to I may still be talking, but if suddenly black screen, know that I didn't leave you on purpose. I just left because the weather deigned that I should be leaving at that point in time. All right, let's see. Jeffrey, the only thing I saw around is, all right, I'm talking about the cast. We'll talk about that. I don't know who all the cast is going to be, but it's going to be interesting. I hope there's a wide range of everything in there. That's going to be a lot of fun. And Moss saying it's usually an equal split between men and women. I think it will be again this time. I would expect always to be 8 men, 8 women, 7 men, 7 women. We don't know that's going to be 16 people, but that seems like kind of how they work it out in this day and age. So we'll see. And heard that June 30th is going to be the cast release. That's what I'm hearing as well. So we'll see. Now here's the interesting thing. July 7th is when the show actually starts. We get the live premiere. I've heard it's going to be 90 minutes long. And apparently the live feeds kick in right after that, which I love to hear because otherwise you miss out so much in that first week. There was so much that happened on my season the first week that if you didn't get the feeds until after that had happened, you're suddenly not really understanding why some of the relationships have been created the way they are and why you had that big alliance and why I knew there was a big alliance and a lot of stuff that you just miss out on. So it sounds like we'll get live feeds from the very start, which I love to hear. That's just what I want. I better get my sleep in now because that means I'm going to be spending a lot of nights watching the old TV screen as well. Parker saying, were you interviewed by Brent and Taryn after I got out? I was not interviewed by Brent, but I was interviewed by Taryn. I did the longest interview with Taryn. He deep dives this stuff, right? I think we spoke for 3 hours or so. We took a little break and then I came back and talked for another 2 hours or so. I mean, it's a long conversation about everything having to do in that house and all that. And of course, I'm a huge Rob Has a Podcast fan. I'd followed him forever. I listened to Taryn and his interviews for years and years before I went on the show. So talking to Taryn was certainly a highlight. Meeting Taryn and Rob's sister Nia at the backyard interviews after the show, I was giddy. I talked to them. I talked to Ika Wong again. I talked to JC was doing an interview, and Rachel Swindler was doing an interview. So there's a lot of people back there, but Rob and Taryn were certainly the highlights. As soon as I came up to them, I said, "Oh, I love you guys. It's so great." And they said, "Yeah, Cliff, we kind of heard you mention our name a few times in your Cliff notes and all of that." So that was fun. All right, let's see what else. Moss saying there should be a second vote twist. All right, here's a twist that I've heard, and I'm not hearing this from official sources. So none of y'all be going to Entertainment Tonight or something and be saying, "Oh, this is something that Cliff's heard." I heard that there's going to be that there very well could be no eviction on the very first night. Right now, that would be great because that's my season. We had the eviction on night one, which I didn't particularly like, but now I've heard from different spoiler accounts and things like that online saying, yeah, maybe we won't have an eviction on night one. So that'd be all right. I'm all for everyone getting a chance to interact with each other as much as possible before those kind of decisions have to be made. So we'll find out for certain. Again, I don't know for certain. I don't know anything, but we'll have that. All right. I talked on this. Yeah, I always run out of time, and I do these little teases on my Instagram posts and all that, and I never got to doing it, but I'm going to do it tonight. Let's talk about the fact that I mentioned it last week, about mentioning again. I saw a movie, which has been around for a few years, but I'd never gotten really around to seeing A Quiet Place. And this past weekend, I saw A Quiet Place too, so I'm all caught up. And if you haven't watched it, I'm not giving away any spoilers because I don't want to do that. Watch it. They're both good. We were entertained by both. But I will say there was one scene in A Quiet Place that just gave me the EBGBs. It really made me cringe. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away, so I'll just say it involved a nail. It involved a hammer nail, not your fingernail. I'm okay with those. No, this involved a nail, the little pointy end of a nail. And it just gave me the little cringe factor. And it's because of my past history. So let me tell y'all a story or two. I think I've said it once before that growing up, I was one of 4 boys, the oldest of 4 brothers, rambunctious kids. We did a little running around. We did a lot of horseplay and everything else, to the point that the people at the emergency room down the street knew my parents on a first name basis for a certain period of time. We'd walk in and say, Mr. and Mrs. Hogg, who is it this time? What can we do for you? And I certainly had my share of misadventures that led to trips to the emergency room as well. Man, I don't know how my parents handled us. It was not easy. So I thought tonight I would give y'all just a few little stories about some of my misadventures in my own house, in the Hogg house, growing up as a kid. So bear with me as we talk about it. Let's talk about the one that led to me thinking about this story. There was a time when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, running running down the street as kids would do. Big old pile of dirt in front of someone's yard because I don't know what they're doing. They're putting new grass down. So I don't remember. I just remember a pile of dirt and a whole bunch of wood laying around because they were doing some reconstruction and things like that. And unfortunately, one piece of wood may have just had a little nail sticking straight up, calling my name. Yes, indeed, because I ran right. I was wearing, I think, sandals. Running right along, running over the hill, down the other side, and right onto that piece of wood and right onto that nail, which went right up into my foot. And here's the worst thing. When a nail goes into your foot, it doesn't come back out. It just sticks there. So then you got to spend a little extra time, bite on a twig. I don't think I did that back then. You have to pull it back out, which is every bit as bad as when you step on it. Because at least when you step on it, it's a surprise. When you're pulling it back out, there ain't no surprises involved in that. And the pain is horrific and bad. So I stepped on a nail, and I believe there may have been a trip to the emergency room at that time. There wasn't a lot you can do with a little puncture wound, except make sure that, it didn't come out the other side. And I guess I don't know if there's major blood vessels in the foot or not. I think all I did for me was put a whole bunch of, gave me a whole bunch of antibiotics, told me a long story about tetanus and lockjaw. As kids, when I was growing up, our worst fear was tetanus, because everyone was told that if you ever get tetanus, it's going to lead to lockjaw, which means that your jaw is going to seize up and you'll never be able to open your mouth again. And it was just one of those things that I think parents told kids back then, just so we were sufficiently scared. So if we ever cut our fingers on a rusty fence or piece of metal or something, we'd tell our parents instead of trying to hide it, because otherwise you get lockjaw and you'd never be able to speak or eat food because your jaw would seize up, and that'd be the end of everything. So that was always my fear. So yeah, I went in, had to get all kinds of tetanus shots, I believe, when I stepped on the nail, and not fun at all. But it certainly made me think about this particular movie as I was watching that movie. Made me think about my experiences with nails. Let me tell you another one. This is when I was a little bit younger. Picture a 4-year-old in a house, running through the house as 4-year-olds sometimes do, with my 3-year-old brother, Robert, standing there right next to me. So I open up a door that goes out into the garage where my parents are doing some work and things like that. Well, it was too loud for my little brother. He didn't like the door open. I wanted the door open so I could see what my parents were doing. We got into an argument about it. My brother proceeds to grab the door, slam it, didn't tell me ahead of time, or else I would have moved my foot out of the door, but I didn't. Most of my foot was moved out of the door. There was one part that apparently didn't quite move as quickly as the rest, and that was one of my toes on I think it was my right foot. Now, here's the kicker. So I cut off one of my toes, except for just a tiny little bit of skin on one side. But here's the kicker, guys. I got regular feet, and yet somehow it wasn't my big toe. No. That would make sense, right? It wasn't my big toe. It was the toe next to my big toe. All the other feet are okay. All the other toes are okay. There's one toe that's cut off, and you would think it's like insulated on both sides by other toes, but no, not me. And it's not like this toe sticks out like it's 8 inches long or something. It's just a regular old toe. I'm not going to show you now, or else I'll end up with a page on WikiFeet and all that weird stuff that goes on. But just trust me, I got regular feet, and yet somehow my brother managed to slam the door on my toe. I look down, and all I see is blood going everywhere. And so I may have cried just a little bit. I may have cried a whole lot. I may have screamed louder than I've ever screamed before or since in my entire lifetime. So my dad runs over. He grabs me. He looks down. All he sees is just blood running down everywhere. So he rushes me over to the kitchen sink to wash it off, not realizing how severe it is. Turns the water on. And as he does that, he realizes two things. One, he realizes that it's cut all the way through everything, the bone and everything. All that's left is just a little tiny bit of skin on one side. So my toe's just kind of sitting there dangling under my foot. That's the first thing he realizes. The second thing he realizes is that our kitchen sink doesn't have a stopper in it. You worry if you accidentally wash a ring or something into your drain. When you wash your son's toe into the drain, that's a whole different level of worrying, I'm sure. So he immediately stops, has a panic attack, thinking that my toe's getting ready to fall off and go down the sink. And then what do you do? I don't know that you can do that much. I'd be the bionic man. They can give me it wouldn't be a $6 million toe. It'd be like a couple $100 for a fake toe, I guess. Well, I don't know. Do they have fake toes? I know they have prosthetic arms and legs. I don't know if they have prosthetic toes. Maybe I need to invent one. But fortunately, I didn't need it. So my dad washes it all off, yells at my mom, says, we got to go to the hospital. Don't think this one's going to get fixed with a Band-Aid. So they grab me, they throw me in the car. All I remember is a trip to the ER room, and my dad's grabbed some rags, and as he's got these rags wrapped around my toe, the blood's just seeping out. This is going everywhere. I must have had a lot of blood as a 4-year-old because it's going everywhere. And they rush me into the emergency room. The doctors look at it and say, he cut his toe off. And my parents are like, yeah, we kind of guess that's why we're here. So they stitched it up. Long story short, and it's too late. It's already a long story. They stitched it up. I think it was 13 stitches. They gave me, I don't know what medication they gave me. It's probably good that I don't know the name of it because I had fun on that medication. I was a happy little 4-year-old because they had me pumped up with all kinds of painkiller, and they showed me a special lollipop tree that if you get a part of your body cut off, they give you a lollipop. Seemed like an okay trade for me at the time. So all I remember is just being on cloud nine and also having a lollipop as I drove back home. But the story doesn't end there. So I had to wear a bandage on this foot forever. Seems like a long time. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I don't know what, all healed up, big old cast and all that kind of stuff on it. So then we go back to the doctor to get the bandages removed. It should be all good, good as new and all that. Well, here's what this doctor didn't tell us. Didn't tell the 4-year-old because I guess they didn't think it's that important. When you've got a toe that's all been cut off and then it's all been wrapped up and protected so nice and everything for so long, when you unwrap it, it doesn't look like a brand new toe, all nice and pink and bendable and everything else. It looked like a little California raisin sitting on the end of my foot. And he unwrapped that. And even as a 4-year-old, I looked at that and said, that doesn't look good. And so I immediately had a panic attack. I started saying, it didn't work. What's wrong with my toe? At which point the doctor had to explain to my mom and I both that, well, give it time. Once the blood continues to rush back in and now that it doesn't have all the compression and everything in it, it'll be fine. And I guess within a day or two it was. But yeah, I remember looking down at that toe and thinking, that's not the way I want my toe to look for the rest of my life. Now, you can't even tell. If you look really close, you can probably see a little bit of a scar to it. But that's it. But yes, I did actually lose a toe at one point in my life. And I wish I could blame that on why I wasn't any faster on that slip and slide during the Big Brother competition and all that. But it really didn't have that much to do with it. But I did tell that story while I was auditioning. And so hopefully, maybe they I don't know if that meant that they thought that I had a high pain threshold. Obviously not the way I screamed. I was 4 years old anyway. But I told the story. And so maybe they just knew I was a dedicated person that you can cut my foot off. You can cut not my toe, but you can cut my toe off. I'm still keeping my foot in the door. You're not shutting the door on me. So there you go. All right. What else? Chris Neveson saying you should have won favorite house guest. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I was so honored to be in the top 3. I truly was. I was so wrapped up in the finale and judging who I was going to give the vote to and all that. I honestly kind of forgot that they had a favorite house guest competition. I'm sitting there hugging Ovi and Sam and just saying hello to everyone after the show is at the very end, after the Mickey's won it all. And then all of a sudden I remember someone saying, I think Tommy saying, Cliff, come over here. You got to get over here. And I hear Julie saying that I'm one of the top 3 house guests. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. Now, if I'd won, even more so. But yeah, Nicole won, and I'm fine with that. I knew America was going to love Nicole. I just knew it. So I can't say I was surprised, but yeah, it was quite the honor to be a top 3, and yeah, I would have loved to win as well, but that's okay. The way it happens sometimes. Barbara Haymaker, do you know when Julie's going to show the Big Brother house? That is a very good question. I saw one little thing where they're talking. I don't even remember. I see all these different sites, and someone had said that based on just the schedules that they could see something like July 3rd or July 5th, day before or after the actual 4th of July, that they may have just some kind of little teaser. And Julie used to go into the house and say, oh, this is the new kitchen, this is a new bedroom, things like that. So she may do something like that, but I'm sure we'll find out next week or two. I hope they show it. I guess I hope they show it ahead of time. any little information I can capture is worth it. I sure wish I'd known what our house is going to be like before I got into the house. But obviously they're not going to tell the house guests and stuff ahead of time. Do y'all realize that if the show starts on July 7th, that they're probably grabbing the house guest all during this week? Everyone's saying, if you figure a week or two sequester, it's probably about time that they start. So people are probably changing their plans, or I don't know. It's fun. I'm just so excited for the people who are so excited knowing that they're getting ready to go into that house. It was such an anticipatory experience for me, building up the excitement, and then you get in sequester, you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe in 3 days I'm going to be in 2 days I'm going to be in the house. I remember the morning I woke up when we got ready to go in the house, and I took a shower. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the last shower I'm going to take for hopefully the next 99 days, where there's not going to be cameras here on me, and where I'm just able to sing in the shower and do everything like a regular person. That in just a couple hours, that all goes away. So yeah, I'm so excited for the people that are getting to do that. All right, I got another couple of ER stories. I'll go faster on these because otherwise we'll just talk about this whole time. So another story, again involving my brother Robert, who cut off my toe. This time he and I are wrestling in our den, our living room, our main room. We're wrestling, and at some point we managed to knock over my mom's sewing basket. Didn't stop us. We're not going to just stop and pick up all the thread and everything else, which we should have, but we didn't. We continue wrestling until at one point someone slams someone else to the floor, and all I know is that this time it's not a nail pointing up, it's a sewing needle. And not one of those big, like doing knitting and crochet and all that. No, this is one of those little tiny needles that you can't ever get the thread to go through. And just a typical little sewing needle about this long. I fell on it right here, went into my palm, went up like that into my palm. When it came back out, there was only one little stub that came out. The rest of the needle, we didn't know at the time. The rest of the needle was sitting right up here in my palm. Hurt like a banshee. Oh, miserable. This was how I was second grade. So what was that? 7 years old. And I'll tell you why I know that here in just a second. So I fall on the needle, miserable. We go to the ER. I think we go to the doctor, and they look and say, well, we don't think the needle's in there. It probably just came, he probably fell on one that was already broken, and just watch it for the next few days. And there's some discrepancy between my mom and I. I think it was several weeks later before they finally took me back. My mom says it was more like a couple of days. But eventually they take me back to the ER again. They take me to the hospital. This time they do an x-ray on my hand. And when they do the x-ray and they bring it in and they show my mom and dad, here's my palm. And right in the middle is this big, super bright white line right in the middle of this thing showing the needle that's left in my hand. And they say, yeah, there's a needle in there. And yes, we're going to have to do surgery to get it back out of his hand. So they pretty much knocked me out. They didn't completely knock me out. I remember someone holding my head so I couldn't watch, which is probably a good thing. I'm not a big fan of watching blood and all that stuff. So I got my head turned. They did. They made a big cut. They grabbed that needle. They pulled it out and wrapped it all up and all that. The reason I know it was in second grade when this happened is because it was the same year I was trying to learn the cursive handwriting. And because it was my right hand and because I had that needle in it, my hand was so uncomfortable and I couldn't learn cursive. I couldn't hold the pen the way that they wanted to. The teachers wanted me to because it hurt. And so I actually held my pen a little. I still do it today. I hold my pen a little differently than other people do. And my cursive handwriting is horrible. Thank God we got printers and typewriters and things like that because I can't write cursive worth a darn. And I had teachers say, Cliff, your handwriting's so bad. You ought to be a doctor. Isn't that amazing? Oh, your handwriting's so bad that we got a profession just for you. I spent time thinking I was going to be a doctor just because all I knew was teachers kept saying it's because I ought to be one. I didn't realize it's because my handwriting was bad. Probably the lowest grades I got when I was in my early years of school was handwriting. Isn't that amazing? He's great at math. He's great at science. He's great at all these things. But his handwriting, we're going to give him a C- on that. I used to be so upset because you can't really fix that the way you fix the other stuff. But there you go. At least I've got an excuse for that. It's because I fell on a needle and left it in my hand until it was too late. I still have a little scar for that. We ever meet in person, ask me. I'll show you the little scar in my hand where I fell on that needle. Don saying, so Robert was an evil brother. He wasn't an evil brother, Don. He was just a little brother. He was a year and a half younger than I am, so there was a little sibling rivalry went on. Oh, we had a blast. He was so perfect. I'm so happy I had him as a brother. We year and a half younger, so we went to high school together. We had a whole lot of the same friends. When I went to college, he came a year later after I did. We stayed in the same dorm. I was living in Houston. He was living just a little south of Houston, and I lost him to a drunk driver, unfortunately, about 20 years ago. But no, he wasn't an evil brother. We were just very competitive brothers on anything. There is nothing in our family that we don't challenge each other on, and that's my brother Robert, my brothers Jim and Bowie. We all did it, and my brother Robert, he certainly had his share of injuries. Yeah, Jeff is saying that as well. I remember one situation, having a contest, sitting in a trash can with our knees over the top and our head rocking back, seeing how much we could rock that trash can back and forth without falling over. I won because it didn't tip over while I was in it. My brother Robert didn't win because he rocked it too much, fell backwards, hit his head on the fireplace, had a huge laceration all the way across his head, had to go in and have surgery and sew up his scalp and all that. And so, yeah, Jeff Mertz was a year younger than my brother. So myself, my brother Robert, and Jeff, we were the terrible trio. We had fun hanging out and running around together, and we all had our share of injuries. So yeah, it was yeah. Jeff remembers what I'm talking about on trash cans. All right, I'm going to give y'all one final ER story, and then maybe I'll answer some of y'all's questions because I'm not paying as much attention maybe as I should have. So, hard to believe looking at me nowadays, but once upon a time, I used to love the trampoline. Man, I'd do trampoline whenever I could. And one time, up at the local YMCA, they had trampolines up there. And I wasn't one of those that would just do the jumps. I would do the jumps, and I'd do the flips, and I'd do the back, land on your back, flip forward onto your front. And yeah, I had fun on my trampolines until the one time I jumped, landed on my back, and then went from my back, flipping back forwards onto my front. And I didn't space it out quite right. And by the time I came forward, instead of landing on a soft, springy trampoline mat, I hit the bars just in front of the mat itself. Yes, indeed. And I hit the bars with my face, specifically with my teeth. As I hit, it drove my teeth through my lip. I still have a scar right here, which you probably can't see, but I'm not going to get too close because that's kind of creepy. But drove my teeth all the way through my lips. So I immediately pop up what do you call not a lifeguard? What's the supervisor for trampolines, who obviously was not paying attention, not doing a very good job. But the person who was supposed to be watching shrieks and has a attack when they see that my teeth are stuck down past my lips and blood's just pouring out my chin. I look like something from a bad horror movie. And kind of like removing a nail from a shoe or removing it from your foot. Not easy to do. Also not easy trying to pull your lip back off your teeth and then finding out, hey, I had pierced lips before there was such a thing, right? I should just put a stud or two in there at the time, and I could have been ahead of the trend and a whole different kind of person. Now I could have whistled with my mouth closed. I could have drank through a straw with my mouth closed. All kinds of options, but I wasn't seeing the options at the time. All I was seeing was a whole lot of blood and a whole lot of pain. So once again, another trip to the emergency room. Once again, more stitches as they sewed everything back up. And I just remember everything hurt for forever. Yeah, it's hard. You couldn't talk. You couldn't eat. Everything was just painful. But eventually I recovered from it. Here's the funny thing. I've been to the ER so many times for cuts everywhere. Sharp objects are not my friend, apparently. I have never broken a bone. I've cut through a bone, but I've never broken a bone in my entire life that I know of. Maybe a toe that I never even caught on. I don't think so. I don't ever break bones. I just cut everything that's ever been possible. So there you go, guys. Now, that's only a small taste. I could give you, especially start including everyone else in my family. We spent a lot of time in the ER, and I can't cover it all tonight. But as I said before, they knew us on a first name basis. Heaven help my parents. I hope they had a fantastic insurance policy, because not easy having 4 kids, 4 rambunctious kids that are always out trying to challenge each other. The worst thing is as one brother is to hear the other brother say, "I dare you to." After that, it's all lost. From that point on, we're all in trouble, because we're probably going to do something stupid. And we did plenty of that over the years. Angie saying, "I love trampolines, but yeah, they can be dangerous. Sprained my ankle on one." I guess they got pads and stuff on them nowadays. Back then, not so much. I need to get on a trampoline again. I got a little bit more body mass. I have a feeling, I don't know, which bounces higher if you drop it onto a trampoline, a feather or a cannonball? I'm more the cannonball than I am the feather. I could probably get some decent altitude up top, huh? I don't know, maybe. It'd be fun to see. We didn't have any kind of trampoline competitions inside the Big Brother house. Maybe they should have had one. We'll never know. David Buchanan saying July 2nd is supposed to be the house tour beach club theme twist. Okay, well, that's close. I was saying the 3rd or the 5th, so the 2nd. So, well, all right. I'm ready for it. I'm going to be watching, and we may come out and do a special show or something on that, because I'm going to be having I don't know, be having so much fun. It's just like welcoming new people to the family, so it's going to be a blast. Jeffrey saying, "I have 2 older brothers. They were both jerks. You got lucky, Cliff. You had brothers to run around." I love my brothers. I got 3 of them, and love all of them. And yeah, we just shared experiences. And I say I got 3 brothers. I got 4 brothers. Jeff Mertz is a brother too. Jeff, you're not left out of this equation also. But yeah, I'm happy. My parents will never admit to. I have a feeling they would have been happy with maybe an extra girl or 2 in the family, just to kind of balance things out. But that's not the way it was. It was to be. So, and Moss, I have a younger brother. It's 9.5 years younger than me. Well, I'm in the same situation. I got a brother that's 1.5 years younger than me. I also have my brother Jim, who's 9 years younger than me. And I've got a brother Bowie. He's the one that was on The Apprentice. I got my brother Bowie, who's 13 years younger than me. So by the time Bowie was born, by the time he started school, I was already off in college and all of that. So we're well spread out, which was a lot of fun. I'm not complaining about it. It's perfect having all those brothers in the family. Prince Grave, what's casting like? Do you know before that there's a key? Well, here's the thing. Did I know there was going to be a key? Did I know I was going into the house? No. I kind of, by the time they come to your house and they want to film promos and things like that, you kind of think, well, there's a decent chance. Maybe I'm going to be an alternate. Maybe I'm on the show. Maybe they're still making their final decisions. But at that point in time, I knew that there was a reasonable possibility that I was going to be on the show. So yeah, I thought that it was possible, but no one tells you until you find that key. When I found the key, then they immediately said, "That's it, Cliff. Just to let you know, now you are on the show. You're not an alternate. You are on the show." And so that's the first time I knew for certain. Before that, it was all speculation. And what was casting like? It was interesting. It was, I didn't send in a video. I showed up at a casting call, and next thing you know, I'm being called. I'm talking to a lot of people on the telephone. I'm sending pictures and filling out forms. And basically, we talk about a loss of privacy in your Big Brother house. The camera's on you 24/7, the microphones. Nothing you say or do isn't going to be watched and judged and analyzed and everything else. Well, I kind of got used to that during the casting process, because I'm not of the generation where we did all the selfies and all. Oh, speaking of, today is National Selfie Day, in case you didn't know. I wasn't the kind that did a lot of selfies and posted on social media and all that. I took pictures of my wife and kids. I didn't take them of me. Next thing you know, casting saying, "Cliff, we need as many pictures of you as we can. We want to see everything you do." It's like, well, I'll send you pictures of my family. I don't have a whole lot of just me. So that took a little getting used to. But now I spent a lot of time talking to all kinds of people. And a lot of it was just them making sure that you could carry on conversations and that you wouldn't freeze when the camera's on you and things like that. So I had talked to them the way I talk to y'all, just chatterbox and best friends. And if you like me, great. If not, well, that's okay. I am who I am. And I guess they either like me or they thought, this he's going to be interesting on that, good or bad. But anyway, so yeah, here's what casting's like. I'll give you this answer. Try out next year. I want you to find out on your own, and you never know. It's too late for this year. They've already picked the contestants, as far as we know. I assume that's the case. But next year, Everyone ought to try it because you never know. Lightning, it's like winning a lottery. It's probably not going to happen, but it has to happen to someone, right? That's the way I always viewed it while I was trying out for the show. All right, 7:59. So we're getting pretty close to the end. I'm not going to start up any huge topics. Don saying, why are all these ER stories making me think of Christmas and BB19? I was almost the same way. I tore my calf muscle on that one veto competition while I was HOH, and I could picture them giving me a scooter as well. I don't think anyone was going to throw a veto competition and let me run a sprint, even with me all bandaged up and everything. I don't think I had that kind of situation like Christmas had, but I remember Christmas. It was amazing to me that she could be injured like that and still be in the house, but she lasted a long time, right? So let's see what else. Mossad never broke or sprained anything, shockingly. Some people break bones, some people cut themselves, some people are lucky don't have anything, I guess. All right, what else, guys? What else do I need to talk about before we get out of here? Let me look at this. T-minus 5 minutes. Don, I'm always so far behind. All right, are there actually 94 cameras? Joshy P says it looks like there are only 2 or 4 cameras in a room. I don't know, Joshy. I never counted them myself. I know there were static cameras, the ones that are always here, and when you walk by, those are the cameras that go and rotate and follow you along, which is kind of creepy, especially in the morning when you know they're doing nothing but watching you. So we've got all those cameras, but then you've also got all the cameras that are behind the glass mirrors and things like that. That who knows? You never know when those mirrors or when those cameras are moving or on or whatever. Once in a blue moon, I'd be standing there and I could hear. And you hear like a camera being wheeled along or something. And so then I thought, all right, well, there's someone back there filming me right now. You always assume the cameras are pointed at you and turned on. There were a few people in my season who asked me, said, Cliff, are the cameras on when this is happening or when we're doing this? Yeah, they're always on. And if they aren't on, assume they're on, because otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. Some people didn't quite get that message, and they probably won't this year. It takes a little getting used to knowing the cameras are on like that. But after a while, you just kind of forget about it, which can be good. It can be bad as well. You gotta be a little careful with that as well. Austin saying, Cliff for Big Brother second chances. I'm all for second chances. That would be fantastic. Don saying, I have no brothers or sisters. Well, Don, you got brothers and sisters out here. They don't all have to be blood brothers, blood sisters. You got plenty of friends, and sometimes your closest friends can be closer than any brother or sister. So don't sell yourself short. You got friends, and that's what matters, right? 801. All right, let's see. Prince Grape, like your pick. Likes your pick icon. Or like Prince Grape's icon. Okay, well, I'll have to go look at it in a second. Cliff, what do you think would have happened had you voted for Holly instead of Tommy? Good question, Austin, and one I've been asked for a whole lot of times. Here's what I think would have happened. If we voted Holly out instead, Tommy, there's not a chance in the world he's going to throw the HOH competition like he promised he would. And he's just not going to do it. Tommy wins that next HOH competition, so he's safe. I think Mickey still wins the veto competition when you're in it with the slingshots. He still wins the competition. He sends either Nicole or myself home. I have a feeling he sends me home because now I found out he thought I was a bigger threat, and because he would be mad that I sent Holly home. It was kind of my decision if that had happened. So Mickey sends me home, so I still go home in 4th place. Now you've got Tommy and Mickey and Nicole in place. I don't know. If Mickey wins the whole thing, does he take Nicole over Tommy? Perhaps. He very well, and that's where I get it. He may have taken Nicole, so maybe Nicole goes to 2nd instead of 3rd place. But I also think that Nicole had 0 shot of winning the whole thing over Tommy or Mickey. So she's kind of dead in the water, no matter what at that point in time. Just my personal opinion, and hindsight, 2020, all of that. But I think I still end up in 4th place, which is what I was fearing and why we made the decision we did. We were taking the chances that would be able to be Nicole and myself and Holly in a final 3. And then I liked our chances, but didn't work out. But you take your chances. All right, I got to shut down. I started a little late, but it's got to be coming up on an hour. David, we'll talk about that a little bit. I saw a comment on there. Jeff is saying your mom was hoping for a girl and got Bowie instead. Yeah, Bowie was fun to have in the family also, though. So we came out fine. My mom saying all you boys married wonderful women, so I have 4 daughters now. Perfect. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, our family's gotten big. We watched over the weekend, and I'll talk about it next week because I don't have time now. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, one of my absolute all-time favorite movies. I may have mentioned that here before, but you know the Greek family on there, how loud and rambunctious they are. That's the Hogg family on the holidays with 4 boys, and now all the grandkids, and we all have our wives there, and they're almost as rambunctious as we are. So we got a big, loud family, which works out well, I guess, when you're trying to go on Big Brother. I'm amazed that they filmed some scenes during Big Brother at my house, and y'all maybe got just a little taste of what it was in the Hogg household. All right, 8:04. We're gonna shut it down. Chris saying, "What's the memory wall like?" It's a big old screen, and you see those faces. You see the black and white faces of people who've been voted out. It's like a constant reminder. I remember at the end where almost all the faces are black except for just a few. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe there's so few of us still left in the house. That's what the memory wall is like, a constant reminder of everyone who has already gone home. All right, guys. I know there's a few more questions, but we're going to we're going to shut down. Amanda, they give you plenty of time to pack your clothes? We'll talk about that next week. In fact, yeah, that'll be right before the season starts. So y'all think of y'all's Big Brother questions as far as packing and moving into the house. I'll try to answer all that stuff next week. We'll make it a little more focused just on Big Brother because I know there's going to be all kinds of questions. But we're going to shut it down for now, guys. Y'all have a fantastic week. Enjoy the sunshine, I'd normally say, but with the thunder and lightning we got here, I got to go outside, and it may be a nice night to stay indoors and watch a few more movies and such. But y'all have a fantastic week. Get that countdown clock started because we're pretty close to Big Brother. We'll talk about that more next week. SKD 143. I love my wife, love my kids, love all of y'all, and love the reality world. And I love that Big Brother is coming back in just 16 days. Woo! I'm ready. Guys, y'all have a fantastic week. I will talk to y'all next Monday. Cheers, my friends.